If you want to be obsessed about what it is you're doing in life and where you're headed, this would be a good start.
Find a niche inside of an industry and then just dominate that niche.
Anybody that's watching, if you get offended easily, well, too bad, because not for you.
Not for you.
Fuck this. I'm literally going, I'm done chasing. I'm going to become the media. You're coming to me.
I'm going to do a countdown and be like, 1, 2, 3. You're doing it.
Oh, hey guys. We're excited to launch this brand new podcast. This has been a long time in the making, and we're all excited to sit down with you. A podcast is called Obsession Required. You're going to find out just why here in a little bit. But first, I want to introduce myself. My name's Talon Smith. You got John Radzwilla to the left of me, and then Andy Dunning over here. What this podcast is essentially about is 3 individuals. We're all business owners, entrepreneurs at 3 different levels. One of us is working on making their first 100 million. The other one is working on making their first 10 million. And one of us is working on making our first 1,000. I'll let you guess who that is later in the show.
1,000. 1,000.
I'm kidding.
We're only allowing you to get to 1 million.
Yeah, 1 million is my cutoff point.
Yeah, your cutoff point.
Yeah, it's me. So, yeah, we're excited about that. We're going to have a lot of real conversations. Our goal with this podcast is that somebody listening out there is going to be able to identify with this mindset that we have, or adopt the mindset that we have and live their life to the fullest. But not only that, excel in business and just excel in life and really find out what they can accomplish if they are obsessed enough with what they do.
That sounds good. I think that's an accurate start and description of, where we're headed with this. I'm going to, guys, I want it to be a full, free conversation. So, Talon, I know you're on a stopper for amount of money that you've got for cussing. So please keep the cussing to a minimum.
Yes.
John and I do not have that tally. So ours is full
I'm
game.
like a New York cab driver.
So guys, just anybody that's watching, if you get offended easily, well, too bad, because not for you.
Not for you.
But if you want to be obsessed about what it is you're doing in life and where you're headed, this would be a good start. You're going to watch and hear about 3 business guys that pretty much, I'm in that second phase of my life. John's really deep into where he's at with his company, and Talon is in that incubator stage, I would call it, of that first growth and those first steps of starting a company. Wouldn't you think that's pretty accurate?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty fair statement.
Okay. I'm going to roll through, ask you guys some questions, because I think it'll help out everybody if we tell everybody a little bit about ourselves first. And I think the easiest way to do that is just ask some really awkward questions.
Let's do
Great.
it.
Yeah, Great. I figured y'all be for that. So, Talon, you were Hollywood, little, movie kid, Nickelodeon, Disney. So how do you go from being a Hollywood kid to then going and serving your country and choosing, let me go put my life on the line for my country versus, doing movies?
So I was in Hollywood, and honestly, I enjoyed it, but something was missing in my life. So when I was a sophomore in high school, I had friends who had graduated who were seniors, and they were over in Iraq fighting. And they would come home and you would talk to them. And, back then it wasn't like they could call you, so they would write you emails. And you're hearing about these stories, hearing about what they're going through. And it really kind of hit me in the heart. So I actually tried enlisting in the military when I was 17. Me and my dad got in an argument. I put a hole through the door that I then had to fix because I was mad because he wouldn't sign me in early. And anyways, he's like, you're not going to the military. So then I took up acting. Dropped out of high school at 17, moved to LA, started getting some success. While I was there, a young man from my hometown, he passed away. I was acquainted with him. I knew him, and that hit me hard. I was sitting, one day, I think I wasn't on a set, and I'm sitting here. I have people, giving me food. I'm chatting it up with people that you actively watch in movies right now. And I'm like, this isn't right. Like, this is not where I should be. I'm like, this guy gave his life for his country. Like, my conviction is with what I'm doing in my country, I need to do something else. So I just got to the point of like, what, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to live this life. Like, yes, I feel like I would have been successful in Hollywood, but I would have missed out on something that was so important to me, and that was serving and defending my country, that I would have regretted being a movie star 1,000%. And I didn't want to live life with regrets. I would have regretted that if I would have done that and not served my country.
Dude, I have chill bumps. Shit.
Yeah.
I feel worthless now.
No, not at all.
Man, that's an intense move from being, I'm sitting on a set, I lose my friend, man, I'm going to sign up, I'm all in. that, that's just a flip of a switch.
So it had been ingrained into me. Obviously, I grew up in, my dad was in the Air Force, so I grew up in, a family in the military. I had uncles in, Vietnam. So I grew up in a very patriotic family. So the idea of serving your country, was not necessarily ingrained in me, but it was something that, we held with high respect. And I had that since growing up, and 9/11 happened, and I think we all remember when that happened. I was in 7th grade sitting in social studies class, and I remember that, and watching the loss from that. And then seeing, all of my friends have their conviction at 18 years old, 17 years old, signing the papers to go, they haven't even started their life yet, to go do that. And then talking to them and seeing what they were doing, I felt like the odd person out, and I felt like that I wasn't living my convictions by being in LA. So at that point, there was a no-brainer. It switched. I remember crying and calling my mom and dad. They're like, "Hey, look, I can't do this anymore." And they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I'm going to go join the military. And they kind of had an inclination that might have happened because of conversations I'd had with them. But I think it was literally less than a year after my friend had passed away. I'd struggled with it. I'd been in and out of the recruiters. I said, I can't do this anymore. And I left, and I don't regret it. I wouldn't change a single thing about how my life turned out. I'm more than happy to have served my country. I have great experiences, and frankly, I am who I am today because of what I did and what the military had taught me, and the men and the women who brought me up and took time to invest into me. So I wouldn't be where I'm at right now if it wasn't for that. I mean, you might be seeing me on LA, making out with like Megan Fox or something in a movie.
No. you never kissed the girl.
Yeah.
Oh, I never. Don't even start that. Did we really lead with that? Kiss the girl.
You walked right into it.
I walked right into it. Yeah.
Sure, he did.
But no.
Well, first off, thank you for your service, because I know that's probably, I grew up in a military family as well. My dad's a retired colonel from the Army, but I didn't have that inclination to go serve. I always thought I missed out on not doing like boot camp or something. I thought that discipline, that just that regimented life would have changed my life completely and taken me down a better path. Probably learned a lot more earlier, but I chose a different route. So thank you for doing that, because I definitely appreciate it. John, I got some stuff to ask you as well.
Okay.
So John runs probably the hottest lifestyle magazine that there is, and it's hunting, fishing, you name it, lifestyle magazine, fashion. I mean, you catch it all in there, and good Lord, you have celebrity after celebrity on the front of your magazine. But just your life in general, man. How did, the existence of hunting really get into, take you to where you are now?
Man, the hunting side of things didn't start until I was later in life. Matter of fact, I think you may have been there when I shot my first deer. It was actually supposed to be the deer that you were supposed to shoot.
I do remember that.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I grew up outside of New York City, about 2 hours west of it in the Pocono Mountains. So we were always very close to that metropolitan area. But as close as we were was as far as away as we were. And growing up in the middle of nowhere, I mean, it's Pennsylvania in the mountains. So my high school got the first day of deer season off. I mean, that's how it was. And it was back in the day when you could still take guns to school.
Do they still do that now?
I think they do.
Oh, wow. I'm shocked.
Some schools do. I'm not sure if my old school does.
My school, you could still pull into the parking lot with a gun rack and still have your gun sitting in the parking lot.
And that's how it was, I think, in the beginning of my high school career. And then after Columbine, all that kind of stuff went away.
Yeah.
But so I always kind of had these like dual lives I lived, and I still live that life. I'm as comfortable in the woods living off grid, bow hunting for, weeks on end as I am
in Gucci.
In Gucci, literally walking down the.
I was going to say we're going to kind of argue here.
I could poop in the woods, or I could walk down the Champs-Élysées in Paris and just go shopping.
What did you just say?
Yeah, I have no clue.
Okay.
What language was that?
It was French.
Oh,
it was French.
Okay, thank you. We're normal.
We're good.
No, so anyway, I live these very dual lives, and man, the hunting thing again came later in life, but it was something I was always interested in. My dad passed away when I was 7. I spent a lot of time in the woods. I had a mom that was not very outdoorsy. Definitely didn't condone hunting. Still doesn't condone hunting, but she understands it now. Maybe because she's reaping some of the benefits of it.
Yeah,
I'd say so.
But that being said, basically, if you looked at the course of my life, what brought me down to Texas, I was actually hired at Neiman Marcus as an assistant buyer in the designer men's department. And I was running 41 different stores in the entire programs. But still on the weekends I was shooting guns. And which I was probably the only gun owner at Neiman Marcus, actually. You know, like, what did you do?
I think I could believe that.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I was always reading like Men's Health, Maxim, you know, Details, you know, Esquire, all those different magazines. And as I started like getting more and more interested in the outdoors and getting into hunting, that aspect of it, and there's a long story behind it that someday we'll go into. I started to realize there was not a media outlet that necessarily was a lifestyle and entertainment magazine for outdoorsmen. And so after Neiman Marcus, I went to another company called cufflinks.com, and the CEO there at one point, I had asked him about like, why cufflinks? And he's like, well, find a niche within inside of an industry and then just dominate that niche. And so I thought to myself,
guys, remember that right there. That important note right there. Find a niche in an industry and dominate it. He just spoke some truth to you that you probably didn't catch.
Yeah, definitely. That always stuck with me. So for the longest time, I walked around like, what is the niche and what is the industry? And then I moved into PR. And I still had this like niche idea. And so in my niche with PR, I was like, I'm going to do outdoor lifestyle kind of stuff. So I got involved with the Bisbee's offshore fishing tournaments. And that's, for those that don't know, it's the world's richest marlin fishing tournament in the world. I got involved with Rockwall Gun Club, a project that you were involved with. And actually, to the people listening to the pod, Andy was the guy that gave me my first crack at entrepreneurship. And basically, I'm like, Andy, I could do this gun club thing for you, but there's no way I could leave my current job doing this. And you're like, well, I've got a few other friends that own some car dealerships, and that's when you introduced me to you know, Shoto and all the different
Rick Ford and the gang.
Yeah, and so I started doing that, and that allowed me to leave that, you know, my full-time job. Anyway, so I got really involved in this PR stuff. But then eventually I got tired of chasing media. Like, there's only so many times I could get a gun club onto the news or a car dealership on the news. And I'm coming up with all these wacky ideas and begging the news. And I'm not the kind of person that kisses ass. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm literally going, like, I'm done chasing. I'm going to become the media. You're coming to me. And that was the attitude I had. And so I'm like, all right, so what's this media idea? So, you know, I'm definitely not afraid of failing in anything in life. You know, if you're not failing, you're not learning. That's another truth bomb. Like, you know, you have to fail to learn. So I started this idea called the journalist source. And it was this idea where basically I built a resource for journalists to come to me for these great story ideas. And that failed horribly. Like, I didn't have the funding. I didn't have the know-how. I just basically put up like a Wix.com website and just like built this thing, and it never went anywhere. So I'm like, well, then what's the next evolution? I'm like, I literally have to become a media company. Mm-hmm. So I found myself at a bar and I sat down with a piece of paper and I sketched out a business idea. I'm like, what's the niche? I'm like, outdoors. That's what I like. That's what I love to do.
Was that tight ends in Frisco?
Bingo. It actually was. Wow. It was. Wow. It was. You know,
there's a lot of business that goes on in that place.
Yes, it was. And I called over the waitress. I'm like, hey, put some clothes on. Come over here. Give me a piece of paper. And so I started drawing this thing out.
He didn't say the first part, just to be clear. Yeah. Just to be clear, that never came out of my mouth.
Just stand there and do some inspo. No. Yeah. Anyway, so I came with this idea, Hook and Barrel. It's a lifestyle and entertainment magazine. So it went all the way back to the fashion career. I'm like, there's got to be a redneck GQ. What does this look like? So then, like,
definitely doesn't look like Field and Streams.
No, definitely not. And so I went across the street, went to Barnes & Nobles, went through the magazine racks, and I pulled everything. I'm like, all right, you have all your usual suspects, Field and Stream, Outdoor Life, all these. And then I pulled, like, what does the fashion industry look like? And I looked at all those. Again, the ones I already subscribed to. I'm like, the only one that came close was Garden and Gun. And they're way more garden than they are ever gun.
Yeah.
I'm like, here's my niche. There's
well, and
not the niche.
You also got into this at a time when guns were falling out of favor. Everybody was against the gun industry at that time as well. I mean, not that they still aren't, but you know, luckily you live in Texas and we're definitely pro guns here. But you really got in this building that niche at a really weird time. I did, but also the blessing of it was the wars in Afghanistan were starting to like wind down, and the guys were coming home. And when everybody was fighting those wars,
the cool kids on the block were the Navy SEALs. Every gun company wanted some tier 1 operator of some sort to hold their gun, or the ads were kicking in doors, and every story was a war story. Well, hunting and fishing companies eventually realized that the deer don't shoot back, and they needed something else. And every Navy SEAL had already written a book. And that trend was kind of like dying down. At the same time, the anti-gun crowd was rising up. So you started seeing like the industry go, well, we can't show images of aggressive action with guns and these violent kind of, impressions that we're giving, because what it's doing is leading to this anti-gun crowd. So what's the new identity? And there we were. And we were preaching this lifestyle side of things. Like, you go out to the woods, you could shoot deer, you could protect your family, you could do these different things. Like 98% of the world do not serve in the military. So what else are we doing with guns as Americans?
Well, I just think the way that you positioned your magazine, like off of that information, I've heard this conversation before, but hearing it again, it's just so refreshing because you did it so intelligently. And with that timing, that's what I think helped you propel forward, because you took a look at it from a realistic perspective. For me, having been in the military, when I see all these guys, military stuff, going guns, for me, that's not realistic. You made the idea of being an outdoorsman while also being classy, enjoying shooting in all of these sort of, what some people would have called backwoods sort of concepts. You made it modern to what it really is today, not to where it was in the 70s and 80s when you're putting on a plaid shirt, putting on your orange cap and going out hunting. You made it, hey, this is what it is. And you navigated it within a time frame where a lot of people would have thought you might not be successful, especially with the anti-gun crowd. But the way that you did it was so intelligent. The way that you built it and timed it out, I mean, it was just beautiful. Like, your execution was great. And I think, I give you props for that, man. It was awesome.
Well, thanks, man. And, and I think it goes back to any business, right? People are always... you know what I hate most is when people give qualitative answers to quantitative questions. And what I mean by that is people will always say, hey, this is not possible. Or in this time frame, this may be a bad idea based upon all of these other things. But no one's ever done the math on it.
Yeah.
And I did the math on it. I'm like, there are a lot more gun owners than there are military people. There are a lot more people out there hunting. All of these things, and I started looking at the business model itself too. I'm like, oh, wait, so you say it's a bad idea to start a print magazine. Yeah, because the model sucks. Has no one ever done the math on this? So for easy math, for those that are listening, in the magazine business, if you print 100,000 for easy math, a great sell through is like 20%. Like, we're celebrating, everyone's getting bonuses. An average sell-through is like, let's say 15%, and that's solid. So what do you do with the rest? You buy them all back and you pay to dispose of the product that you already paid for. So now you're double paying for this stuff. Like, this model sucks. Again, people that challenged me in this, again, were giving me a qualitative answer, not a quantitative answer. I'm like, well, your math sucks. Of course you wouldn't want me to do that. Well, how about I just change how the math is done? And I think that's one of the things. It's kind of like that. Have you guys heard of the Dunning-Kruger curve? Not you, Andy.
No, I was going to say, because
what did you develop
my curve went down.
Okay, no, okay, but so I was.
I know what you're talking about.
So basically, it's a curve that in the beginning, like, your confidence completely overshadows your actual ability, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And on the far right of that curve is essentially like, people that have been in it for so long doubt their own abilities.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
And so I was so far left of this curve, like, I didn't know shit about magazines except that the math didn't work. And that's what propelled me. That's where I became obsessed. I was like, so don't come to me with a problem without a solution. Don't give me qualitative answers when I need quantitative answers. And none of y'all have done the fucking math on this. So let's dial this in.
That separates just exactly where you are now. That's part of being an entrepreneur. So you're going into it looking at, okay, you're fucked up on what you guys are looking at is math. And now I know, and thank you for that, because I'm glad you guys don't realize this. I'm going to go over here. I have now found how to be the disruptor in what I'm going to do within this industry.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. So kind of leads into this next question. This is kind of for both of y'all, but
Sure.
What really, when it's all said and done, you both walked away from kind of, a traditional job. I mean, you're working at Neiman Marcus, you're still in the military at that time, or even the fact that you're walking away from Hollywood where you're just getting that start and a potential for it to go somewhere. And then you're like, man, I'm going on my own. You know, when you quit working for your own PR company to say, hey, I'm actually going to do this magazine, or, you know, now, you know, where you're at between I mean, we can go to the laundry list of the stuff you're actually doing right now, you know, between, you know, nursing, psychology, the gym, you know, HYROX. It's just, but now you're like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm moving here. How'd that light switch happen for you?
You got to find out what you love and what your passion is, and you like literally become obsessed with it. Like I was at the point, like I told you, after my friend had passed away, like I was in and out of the recruiter's office. I was watching videos from Iraq. Like I was so obsessed with serving my country that it just became that. And I was so, you know, just in love with those people who had served me that I was going to do it. And if you become obsessed and you love with that and you do it, you're going to make that switch. But if you don't absolutely love it, like you're not going to have a light switch for it. You're never going to fully commit to that.
But now you've had to commit from quitting something.
Oh yeah, I just got retired.
And start anew. I mean, you're literally, it's like, okay, here, it's now I'm on a different playing field. You know, when you were making that decision to go from acting into the military, that's one thing. But now you're retired. You don't have that backup anymore.
No.
How do you make that step?
So how do
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, for sure. That's a great question. So I think making the steps for me, and this kind of goes back to the military sort of deal, right? Getting out of the military. Like when I joined the military, I knew that I needed to have something to support a family afterwards. And I knew that I wanted to be in the medical field. And then I knew that I wanted to take care of people. So when I got out of the military, my first question was, how do I provide for my family in the quickest amount of time and have a stable job that can allow me to eventually free up my time to build something that I care about, which would be the gym. And compete. And that was nursing. I already had military experience for being a corpsman. You know, if you don't know what a corpsman is, we're essentially combat medics for the Marine Corps, but we have to join the Navy. It's the most backwards thing ever, but it's been going on since World War I. So if everybody asks me, I identify as a Marine. All right, it's 2025 and I can say that. But I knew that I wanted to do that. So that's when I went into nursing. And the whole idea between nursing is it allows me to work 3 days per week, bring home a solid income, and allows me to focus on what my passion is, and that's going to be the gym. So that switch was sort of planned beforehand by knowing what I wanted to do. Now, completely separating from the military, we can have long conversations of that. What that did is now I'm essentially working on buying my time to focus on my passions. So my passion is obviously fitness. For you guys, it hasn't been talked about, but I graduate next December with my Doctor of Nursing practice in psychiatric and mental health. And that comes back to something kind of how we all met, which was through Beast Mode.
Yeah.
Again, what you guys might not know as well is I was on a TV show called Stars and Stripes, and there I met somebody who influenced my life greatly, Chris Kyle. And Chris and I co-founded Beast Mode for the Brave, and this is just going to tie you guys in together. And that's when I met John, who became our marketing guy.
PR firm I was running.
Firm?
PR firm. Yeah, PR firm John that he worked with.
The firm.
One.
The firm. Yeah. And then Andy decided to take the Beast Mode for the Brave challenge and went absolutely beast mode in Vegas. And I think won 4 out of 5 hands in blackjack in like less than a minute, and made a very gracious donation to the organization. So that's how we kind of all came in. But then again, the whole psychology aspect of that, like me really narrowing that in, came from being around Chris and talking to him about what he did. And then now it's gotten to the point where like it is an obsession because I've lost more friends from the military to suicide than I have to combat. And I made that change for psychology because what I saw in my experience was the VA. It was a very terrible thing. We'll talk about that one day. But I literally walked out of the office and threatened to report a doctor to the medical board. Anyways, but my obsession became, I don't want to lose another friend to suicide. And if there's a problem, you become the solution. Just like a lot of things we'll talk about. And I know that I can be the solution. And if I can save one life, the last 13 years of school that I've been in is going to be worth it. So part of the transition was pre-planned to do it. The rest of that came from having influence, being influenced by individuals who were doing a lot with their lives. And the third part was essentially when I committed to psychiatry was just literally through like, probably the psychological damage that I went through and not wanting to ever feel that shit again.
Yeah.
I see $1 now. Okay, wow. There we go.
So that's one thing, and we'll get into this will be a topic of conversation all the time on this podcast, and it's going to be the people you surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
Because I firmly believe, I know in my life, I mean, there's been stages in my life where, I went through and John's seen it. You've seen it. Well, hell, everybody's seen me when I've been in Vegas at times. But I mean, I was just, unhinged, in a different way, different level, and I had a life that allowed me to be able to do that. I surrounded myself, though, around those wrong people, and they influenced sometimes how I acted, some of the things I did. And, and we'll get more into that later, but that's what you said you had Chris Kyle, you had a couple other people that you had surrounded yourself with that helped influence you to go through that positive path of taking it on your own. So I think that's where I'm getting at, of that circle of friends. I heard this deal the other day, if you put 5 millionaires in a room together and they always hang out together and there's one other person in the room, that sixth person will eventually become a millionaire just by nutrition of hanging out with these guys. And I firmly believe that.
Or 3 guys in a room.
Three guys in a room.
Yeah.
That third guy.
And we got Tanner.
Oh, so Andy, I want to go into that. You hit about, the people you surrounded yourself with, right? Some of the, actions you took or did not take, allegedly, while you were in Vegas. So recently, and this is having, us growing in our relationship, you recently you recently went through something and made this radical change in your life that has been absolutely beautiful to watch. I want to say that. I don't know if beautiful is the right word, but it is.
No, it's pretty cool.
What has that done for you? Because I remember, I remember Vegas.
Yeah.
It was a great time. John remembers it more than me, but
John was there more.
Yeah. Let me set this up really quick. And this is the great thing about Andy. A matter of fact, I just was at a niche publishers conference out in Vegas, and I'm in this hotel, and it's like this weird hotel where nobody's in this casino. And I'm like, I have this weird suspicion. Like, I'm having these weird deja vu moments. I'm like, nothing looks familiar, but I think I've been here before.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's the Virgin Hotel.
Oh, wow.
That used to be the Hard Rock.
The Hard Rock.
Oh,
yeah.
And I just had flashbacks to the craziness. But when I first met you, you were making a stupid amount of money, in my opinion, at that time. I don't even really know what your bank account was, but all I could see was money flying. And so to a younger man, that's a guy that's doing really well. But you never know what somebody's going through, right?
Yeah.
And now that you know now, even then, you didn't know what you're going through, I don't think.
No.
Until now. But I've been in Vegas when you have lost $1 million, and I've been in Vegas when you've won $1 million. A matter of fact, I went because I couldn't stomach anymore. I went for a massage. I was like, he's down like $700,000. I can't do this. I came back. I'm like, where's Andy? He's nowhere. And all the baccarat tables were pushed together, and Nobu was catering the high limits room. And I'm like, what happened? And your friend was like, hey, he just won $1 million, and he's just over there slinging freaking $50 sushi rolls like they're. And I remember there was one point you only would play with the hot pink chips. You only played with one color, and they happened to be the biggest chip. But I watched all of this, and there's crazy nights, and we could all have those kind of fun stories, but eventually at some point you hit rock bottom.
Yep.
And you went through all this stuff. And again, it was kind of maybe a silent struggle. As men, we don't really talk about those kind of things, or maybe I wasn't around enough because I was growing my business. But you told me a story, and I think Talon's heard it, where recently you went back to Vegas and you parked your jet next to the jet that used to steal your money.
Yeah.
And because they used to fly you out there, right?
Yeah.
And so like every time I land in Vegas and I look out the window in the plane, I'm like, one, why am I not on Andy's plane? And I'm here in coach. But two, like it always reminds me of your story. And like you should tell that story so people understand that. And you've done this in what, 10 years?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I started gambling when I was, I think I was 18.
Well, no, but your comeback.
Oh, my comeback I've done I started my comeback back in 18.
18. Okay.
So I'm on 7 years.
And I started hook and barrel in 18.
Yeah. So, that's where this journey really, that's why I talk about I'm in that second phase. It's like 2.0. It was like, man, a light popped on for me. I hadn't quite gotten to where I was broke, but I still had money to invest. But I definitely burned through my nest egg. Yeah. And, and I'd burned through it. I was, I was young when I sold my company the first time. I was 38 years old. We had an 8-figure exit when I sold the company. When you're 38 years old and somebody throws that kind of money up in front of you, you're like, oh shit, I can live forever, man. We've got this thing beat, man. It's just, I'm done. I don't have to work the rest of my life. And so, that kind of accelerated me going to Vegas more. Well, when I originally went to Vegas, I'd bet $25. Well, $25 turned into $500. $500 turned into $1,000. $1,000 turned into $10,000. $10,000 turned into, $150,000 hand.
Now, do you remember that one night? I will say he was obsessed with only playing with pink, and all the other ones you would just kind of throw aside. And as the Red Bull vodka started flowing, more and more of them would end up like kind of just going by the wayside. And I remember the one morning I woke up and I was like, Andy, you want the good news or the bad news? And you're like, I think you said, I know what the bad news is. What's the good news? And in the cargo pocket I was wearing, I was like, I have $43,000 in chips you threw last night.
I was notorious for just throwing the chips out. So man, that's a whole nother podcast.
So I just want to get back to that. And I think that, like I said, I want to say since John's party, because I do remember Vegas. I remember, stories you told me, stories John told me, but in August, we're at John's 40th birthday. We had just ran 40 miles for John's 40th birthday, which he deeply regretted. I'm kidding. It was a great time.
I couldn't walk right for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
foot,
that's true. But I remember you go, I'm not drinking. And this whole thing, you were a completely different person. Your demeanor was completely different. I recognized it. And you had made this life change, and it wasn't just mentally. You were taking the action to make that change. What has that done for you, for your business, and just life in general, since you went through this whole literal 360 in your life and have fully committed to being obsessed not only with your business, but taking care of yourself and those around you? Like, what has that done for you? What does it look like now?
Well, I mean, for me personally, it's just, I feel a complete change. I mean, when you lose 40 pounds, you're going to feel a complete change. But, it's last weekend, I think, was 1 year.
Yeah.
And
wow,
yeah,
congratulations.
And don't get me wrong, I've had a glass of wine. I'm not saying I went total year without a drink, but I have been sober 100% for a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I've not had more than one drink.
And that's a great delineation too for anybody that is trying to stop drinking. First off, I would highly encourage it. We all know that it's just poison.
Yeah.
But I think in social settings or with wives and stuff, I think people sometimes take it to an extreme where they say they're stopping drinking, right?
Yeah.
And there's a difference between sobriety and not drinking. And I think that's a great thing you just said, because you just have a glass of wine.
I've probably had 5 glasses of wine in the past year, if that. Jamie and I went out, we were in Miami for something, and she wanted a bottle of wine, and she ordered it, and she's like, holy mackerel, you have to at least take a sip of it. And I was like, oh yeah, it was good. It was worth the wait. But that's the only time I've had anything to drink. Man, I started waking up in the mornings and I'm like, God, I feel good. I feel like on Saturday, I actually felt like getting up at 6 o'clock like I normally do. I get up between 4:30 and 5 every single day. And I no longer have to wait for the alarm to go off. I'm like, God, hurry up, please go off so I can get up, because I'm awake. And that's, I've become obsessed with getting up, doing stuff, working out every day. Nobody know, I'm on a cold plunge journey that on the 21st of this month will be 365 days in a row of cold plunging.
That's awesome.
And I haven't missed a day. I mean, I've got psycho enough about it. I had a cold plunge I traveled with, but it's just, man, physically I feel better. Mentally I feel better. My company is doing better because I'm able to lead better. I'm a better leader for my team. They get more of me now. They get a different me than what they used to. And one of the things I knew I had to do is when I had my other company, and when you're in business for yourself, you can do things a little different. I'm in business for myself now, but now I have a whole team that reports to me. We're bigger than we were than my old company.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And getting bigger, every day. And so that's if I was going to continue on that path and wanted to be, a bigger auction than what I was before, I had to be a better person than what I was before. So I had to change what it was I was doing. Well, as soon as I started feeling those positive changes, that's when I truly started getting obsessed with how I'm living my life, the wanting to learn more, wanting to, get more educated on how to be a better leader and how to be a better business person, and then not just that, but I had a bunch of shit on my heart. I felt like I had to get off from all the experiences I've had. It's kind of like starting this podcast. For me, I told y'all this in the very beginning. They're like, well, why do you want to do it? And I'm like, it's fucking therapy, man. Yeah. For me, it's just to sit down with you guys and get to talk about the stuff I've gone through and got to do. And then to hear your experiences. That's what it is to me. I could, don't take this wrong. I want y'all to watch, but if nobody ever watched it, wouldn't bother me a bit. This right here is worth more. If I'm, whatever we spend to put this thing on, it's worth it to me. It's cheaper when I'm going to spend it a shrink.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, somebody who's headed that route anyways. So
yeah, that's right. You're good.
If all else fails, we'll go.
Yeah, me right here, boys.
But it that's where I becoming obsessed became real important to me.
Yeah, and I just think, like, from my perspective, whenever you see somebody leveling up like that and literally altering what they do in their life, and it's complete 360, and then you see that growth, it's just so refreshing to see. But not only that, like, it was motivating to me. Because I feel like I'm pretty locked in 99% of the time. But then seeing you having done that, I'm like, dude, I'm not nearly locked in as I need to be. I think we had another conversation, it might have been a week after that, and I was like, I'm not locked in. It was a real gut check when you came, when I talked to him at the party, and I talked to that next week. It was a real gut check that, like, my stuff's not together, and I need to get together. So it's been motivating, and I just want to say, like, thank you for that, because you see it. I'm around at the gym where people change their lives, but like somebody who's accomplished what you've accomplished, you could have just simply said, like you said, man, I made the money, I'm good. Like, you could do that right now. You could stop working right now and be there, but you're not. You changed your life, and like, not only did you change your life, but you've changed your business, and like, you've changed others around you. And like, I'm just saying thank you firsthand, because like I said, you put me in check, and I've been more disciplined, even though I was extremely disciplined. And now, having heard your story and just experienced you literally on John's birthday and probably the week after when we talked.
But now, do you not feel like one of the things my goal wasn't big enough? That target I had up on the wall when I sold my company the first time, that wasn't a target. That was like a BB gun going off.
Do you know your goal?
I know my goal, I mean, I truly, hell, you look on my phone. I mean, I've gotten so obsessed now, it sits on my phone, and I sit and I read it multiple times a day of what it is I'm after. Now, that's between me and myself. One day, maybe I'll read it on here, but I know that that's where I want to go. I know I'm going to sacrifice and do all the things I have to do to achieve it. Is there going to be some people that take some cannon fodder from it? Yeah. Am I going to take some? Yeah. But, it's where I want to go in my life.
But that's part of the game, though. You're always going to take cannon fodder. It's like the people who can be resilient enough to take the cannon fodder and ask for some more and keep going. Those are the ones who are going to be successful. And that's part of being obsessed. And we can talk about that more in another one, man. But like, absolutely, we're all going to take cannon fodder. I know you've taken cannon fodder. Yeah. Right now, I'm taking cannon, missile, and artillery fire all at once. But you're going to take it. But it's if you're resilient.
Somebody should call it Corpsman.
Yeah, somebody should call it Corpsman if we know him. Get him on that podcast, please. But no,
I got a tourniquet in my bag.
Yeah.
John and I learned that at who was that crazy guy we went?
Craig
Sawman Sawyer.
Yeah.
Man, I still carry that thing in my bag.
Yeah, I love it.
It's the same one from that day.
You might want to change it. You might want to change that one out.
Yeah. It's not even the right one anymore.
You're going to go to put it on me and it just falls off.
No, it's I forget what they're called. It's like the rubber band one that you like keep wrapping.
Though they gave me one of those in Afghanistan and I threw it away. I was like, dude,
so you've been carrying the wrong thing for 20 years.
For 20 years.
I've got a belt. Right now the belt is probably better than that.
Man, and I'm not saying it doesn't work, but no, I'm not.
So let's kind of move forward a little bit. So now, obviously nobody in this room is averse to risk. We believe in risk. We believe that you've got to be extremely resilient, and we have really defining moments in our lives that have pushed the limits of the things we want to do. But, John, I know part of your story of, you and some buddies went down to Mexico and went and did the Baja one year and, running of the bulls and stuff like that. you got a kid now.
Yeah.
You know, where does risk sacrifice though? Does it interfere? Not, and I'm not just talking about risk sacrifice on, you know, things you go do that are exciting adrenaline things. I'm talking about where is your risk sacrifice now that you have a family?
Wow.
And that's going into business.
Yeah. So you kind of have to really start weighing things. You know, my wife Natalie's called me out a lot on this, and she's like, you know, she often accuses me of just doing things for the story, and that's the damn truth. But you have to understand. You have to like really kind of, now that I have a kid, you kind of have to predict what you want that story outcome to be, right? Like I want to leave a great legacy for my kid, set an example for my kid, basically set him on a path where he's just as obsessed with adventure and seeking it throughout the world. And because I really believe heavily in travel too, like expanding your horizons. That's like one of my core things that I like to do. Like if you know, people spend money on cars, people spend money on whatever, like all my money goes to travel. And now HYROX, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Which includes travel, yeah, and fitness. So, that was like the perfect drug.
Yeah, I got you.
But no, like, so with a kid, you have to be more calculated, and I think I've always been, right. Like I'm not a huge risk taker. I'm a huge calculated risk taker. If I look at it and go, that's really dangerous, and there's a large chance of me failing, and like it just won't just be fail. It will be like a crater in the earth. Like, I'm not doing it. Right. But like, I take up things though that I would be, if I were to look back on my story and say, you know what, I was proud to fail at that because at least I went and tried. And I can't come out of it in a calculated manner. That's where I like to take risk. Like, I'm not one of these guys that's like, God, I'm, like I've seen Travis Pastrana jump out of an airplane before without a parachute and try to land on somebody else as he's falling and then put on that chute. Like, that's not me.
You're not that adrenaline junkie for that.
Well, just in anything. Like if I know, if I'm jumping into this particular thing, whether it be business, a physical fitness thing or whatever, and there's a large probability of getting hurt in doing this. Like even before a kid, I wasn't doing it. Like because I realized like I'm also very pragmatic for the long game. I've always was when I was a kid too. Like I always knew if I screwed up when I was a kid, there's a good chance when I'm older I'll be poor. Like I'd be living under a bridge somewhere. Or I'd be pumping gas the rest of my life. Like I always had the long vision of that. So like when it comes to risk, I'm super calculated. And now that I have a kid, I'm even more calculated. You know, like, is this investment worth the risk? And if I lose it all, like how am I gonna be able to look at Jack in the face someday and go, son, sorry, you have no money for college. Same thing with like death. Like there's a lot of things like this running with the bulls thing.
Wait, you had money for college?
No, I didn't have money for college.
Then why should he?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Make him earn it.
Because you want
the
your
government's
kids.
going to give it to him, and then they're just going to take it back and say, "Oh, don't worry about it. You don't have to pay for it."
Yeah, no. Now, like they're going back on it. Now they're like levying your tax returns.
Well,
and
as they should.
Yeah,
These colleges should be paying for that. Sorry, we're not getting political.
Yeah.
But no, like even with like some of these like physical risks, like I'm like, are there things like I do not jump out of airplanes. That is not the thing that I do. Natalie likes to jump out of airplanes.
And I don't blame her. To me, that's a reset on life. I truly, every time I've jumped out of a plane, when I get on the ground, I'm just like, God, we just started the world over again. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, no. So like so in Beast Mode for the Brave, this all ties together, which is so serendipitous that we're doing this podcast. But a long time ago, when we were working with Beast Mode for the Brave, there was a guy that worked with us, General Furlow, right? And he once said, two things fall out of the sky: bird shit and idiots. And I'm neither, right? And that's kind of this. I've always subscribed to that. I don't do that stuff, but I will run with the bulls because I have the ability to, at least in my own mind, control the situation. Like I could zig when they zag.
Okay.
Like at least like when you're falling out of the sky, you have one option. It's did the chute work or didn't it work? Like maybe I could jump, maybe I could dodge. I don't know. Maybe that's just the way I justify things.
Okay.
And then like there will be a story. Like my kid, because there's a huge problem.
The story won't be splat.
It won't be splat. Like my dad jumped out of an airplane and he splattered.
I mean, that's still a pretty cool story.
Yeah, no, but like
it is a cool story. Yeah, I'd be like, how'd John die? Oh, he jumped out of a plane. Idiot forgot his chute.
Yeah. Well, I better hit something good. Like he landed on a Ferrari. No, I'm going to land in a cow pasture, and probably the last thing I'm going to see is like a cow patty. Like how would you like that to be?
You'll feel like a fly hitting
I just
the
want to
windshield.
say, John, the secret to running with the bulls, and this goes for anything that's chasing you in life, is you just have to be faster than somebody else.
Exactly.
I have the theory that you're going to be able to outrun some dude there that's going to be his first form of cardio in 5 years.
So
that bull is going to be slowed up a little bit once he tramples him.
Yeah,
so you got good chances.
There is a theory about that, but then again, it's there's a fear of perception, and so I did some research into this.
Oh God!
Right. So like my thought was, I only have to be faster than the slowest drunk Spaniard.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty fast.
Are drunk Spaniards fast? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Like they thought they're going to,
Don't finish that.
Yeah.
Don't finish that.
Anyway, but long story short is that was my theory.
Yeah.
But then more I read into the culture of running for the bulls. If you're in the front of the pack, you're getting made fun of because you're the guy that's trying not to be near the bulls. Like you're not brave enough to be near the bulls, right? You're just running ahead of everybody. So like you kind of have to be middle of the pack to be respected. So now I'm changing my whole thing. Like I got to run like 7-minute miles instead of my plan like sub 5.
It's 400 meters. You got to run for 90
No, it's
seconds.
3/4 of a mile.
I can't do math on that.
That's 1,200 meters.
Oh, that's okay. You're gonna be fine.
But all I know is like I have to kind of be near the bull.
He'll be fine
like, I
until,
want that-
until,
You don't go
until
run with
that
the
horn
bulls.
goes right through his ass.
That's gonna be so great. I want
know.
a picture so bad of that.
That's why I want you to come. You've got to come to Spain so you can sew me up.
I mean,
So,
I'd love to.
George is coming.
You
You're
could
not
run
coming.
Triage.
I could definitely run triage. Yeah, we'll talk about it. I've been given permission by the wife, which is step number 1, and then
That's all he's got permission. You've heard it here. If you don't come, you're just a pussy.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So I always had that theory,
You wanna do
kind of
small
like
balls
being,
or
when
There's no wall balls
when
involved.
being chased, like if you were being chased by a bear or something like that, And I had a friend of mine ask me one day, we were actually out where the bears were, and he said, "What are you going to? That bear? That's not going to kill that bear with that gun." I said, "I don't need to. I only need to be able to shoot you in the knee and keep running."
And I've been on hunting trips with you before, and that could very
might be an option.
That might be an option.
Because John, I'm not saying fitness levels, but John just might outrun you. So
Oh,
you
that's
might,
why I'd shoot him.
Okay, just so we're clearing.
Yeah, that's the whole
Good
point.
news
If
about
I'm not,
Andy is he's now a collector of like antique guns, and
They
there's a
might
high
not work.
probability of them not
they're
working.
Probably going to dry fire or something like that.
Kevin over at Rock Island being called, that revolver you sold me just went click.
Yep. So let's move to this, Talon. For you, being in combat situations and not just that, but in your your world class HYROX competitions and stuff like that. How did your tours in Afghanistan or those emergency moments, did those lead to helping you fight through better in competition to give you like maybe a better level calm mind when you get in high stress situations?
So I think this comes back to everybody, and it's I don't even know if I can say this. Man, that takes me back. So what kept me calm in Afghanistan? Dude, I can't get this out.
See, I told you this was therapy.
Yeah, man. So my life adaptation, how I approach things, kind of came back to Afghanistan, and it came to that moment, like when I signed the paper. I actually volunteered to go to combat. I'll tell you guys that story when I got drunk in Vegas and cut off a cast, and then saw another. That's a whole other story.
Was that with Andy in
No.
Vegas? Because it sounds like something that could have happened in that hotel room.
No, could have. Nah, that's a whole story about how I went to Afghanistan. But anyways, whenever you're gonna do something, and this comes to taking calculated risk, like there is no calculated risk when you sign, when you volunteer to go to combat. Anything can happen. But the best way that I approach life and everything that I do, and I meant this, is before I went to Afghanistan, I was willing to die. I didn't plan on coming home, and I accepted that. And when you completely accept the fact that this is the last time I'm gonna see my wife, when you can fully accept that what in front of you might not be the outcome that you want, you can approach life fearlessly. And I went over there, and there were some scary moments and all of that, but I literally beforehand knew that there was a probability that I wasn't coming home, and I accepted that, and I was okay with that. So moving through and having this mental calmness, anything that I get into, I'm absolutely willing to go all in, even if it costs me everything. And you have to approach it that way, because if you don't, if I would have gone over there and not prepared to, I'd have lived every moment that I was under and in fear. And the first time I just did a post about this, the first time, I got into an MRAP and went up Route 611 to Sangin, the most heavily IED'd road, like I was scared. I was prepared to die, but I was scared. But then I realized if I'm going to be wrapped in fear with everything that I do on this mission and this deployment, I'm going to be a liability and not an asset to my team. So I decided that next day, I don't give a shit. There's only two options. Number one, I come home, and number two, I don't. And I'm prepared for both.
Dude, he told me that story. This was a couple of weeks ago. I think when you were over at the house, you were telling me that story. I'm just sitting there like, God, how do you, that moment of making that decision of, you know, hey man, I got to quit being scared of dying. I have to embrace it, you know, almost of, yeah, I'm going to walk into this. I could die. I'm good with it. Where I'm at in my life, what I've done in my life, I'm proud of, and everybody around me is going to be proud of what I did.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just complete acceptance. Like I knew that I went over there for a mission, and like I said, there's only two options. You come home, or if you don't. Crazy enough, my vehicle almost hit an ID. It was removed 5 minutes before our convoy went. I actually saw the hole that it was dug out of, and I told our driver to blow by, and we got back to base. And then later we were 45 miles behind enemy lines. We were so far north, we didn't have any support to come and get us. And we're on a foot patrol. And this kind of sounds like really bad life choice habits people have, but we called it patrolling by praying, which means you're not using a minesweeper. So our point man did that. We were following guys in line, and for whatever reason, they zigzagged to the left. I looked down at my foot, and 3 feet away, there's a pressure plate IED. I about shit my pants, and I was like, oh, well, here we go. I'm like, this is going to be it. And I walked on, but I didn't do it in fear. It just completely accepted it. And I think that's something to take away, like when you're obsessed with something. Like I was so obsessed with serving my country and going to fight. Like that's all I wanted to do was go do that. You know, that I'd written my goodbye letter to my wife. I'd been prepared that I'm not coming home and okayed with that. And I was okay with dying. Like I was fine with it. Like, did I want to? No. But like when you have something that you're going to be obsessed about, that you're going to go about, you have to be prepared to go all in. And if you're not prepared to absolutely fall on your face, fail, and find some humility along the way, then it's probably not worth doing. And you need to find out what that truly is. Because if you're not that convicted, if you're not that freaking obsessed, one bad thing is going to happen and you're going to derail yourself.
So that's perfect, because you're going to make a great entrepreneur. Because you have to be that obsessed and crazy going in to do business on your own.
There are minefields.
There are minefields. It's a different, don't get me wrong.
But you can't even compare to that story.
No, but at the same time, it's not life or death stuff, but it is stuff that has outcomes on so many other people's lives. Yeah. I have over 150 employees. Do you not think every day I'm sitting there and decisions I make, I know good and well it affects everybody that works for me. Then it also affects other companies that are down the food chain. And, and it's going to be the same way with you as your companies grow, those decisions that you have to make. You've got to be obsessed with what you're doing at all times in order to be able to get through it. So you're definitely have a mindset way ahead of where probably John or I did when we first went out as, trying to do things on our own. I know my first company, I was nowhere near obsessed the way I am now.
Well, absolutely. And so I've been in the gym, and like obviously there's things in the works right now. I've been in the gym business now since 2014 when I technically started owning portions of that. But part of being obsessed, and this is one of the things that like we'll navigate to in this conversation is, when I started out the business, I had no direction. I just knew what I was good at and I did it. And now as time's evolved, where you're going back and looking at it and looking at it and looking at it, there's things that I have to change, and you have to have the ability to be able to change that. Going through the ups and downs over the last 13 years, I've learned a lot. And what I've learned is through it, number one is I have like the resilience of anything, because I will take hits and keep on going. But what I've also learned is you have to have the humility to be like, I don't know what I'm doing with this part, acknowledge what it is, and find people who do. And that's why I'm so thankful to have you and John. And if you really are obsessed with something, you're gonna have the humility to be like, I need help. Because very rarely do people get through places in their life with some sort of help. And I mean, John, like you have Natalie. Andy, I know that your dad was a big influence in your life and helping you through, becoming an auctioneer and all of that. Like you have to have that as well. So, this new venture and this new obsession, like I said, just that conversation with you just put me in check. I was like, yeah, I'm working hard on my business. Like, yeah, my business is making money. Is it making what it could make? Is it what I want? No. And then why are you being complacent? And granted, I was working on the business, but like when I look at what you're doing and what John's doing, I'm like, I'm complacent. And I'm like, same thing, that mindset that I have from Afghanistan is like, I'm willing to die for it. Like, absolutely, I've been willing to die for my gym, but there's one aspect of that, of being so obsessed with it. If you're willing to die for it, you got to be willing to work for it. And you got to be willing to go to places that you don't want to go, right? Like going to, like literally getting on a patrol and then being like, hey, look, you're going to be sitting at a checkpoint today. There's going to be suicide bombers who might come kill these kids at the school. You got to be prepared for it and ready to work for it. So when we went out, we were ready to work. We were on edge. Same thing with the business. Like, yeah, I know what I want, and I got to work for it. And
you got to be willing to go get it.
You got to go get it, and that's it.
Yeah.
And 100%. And I do have that drive. And if you look at my life everywhere, I have that drive. I do work for it. My time has been split. But, even so, seeing what you do and seeing what John does and have these conversations, I'm like, you know what, dude, I'm not nearly going as hard into this as I should. And the last, I want to say, since your birthday, I've dove into my business like I never did before, despite all the things that I have going on. And it's been beautiful. I mean, studying for a doctorate's no joke. The hours that I put into that's insane. Working a 36-hour job per week, training for 12, 13 hours per week. It's no joke. But like you said, man, when you have that conviction and you're willing to die for it, and that's what I realized, man, like, why don't you take your mindset there and literally put it back into your gym and watch what happens? And it's been.
It sounds like you still have a lot of time left on your hands during the day. I think you should put a couple other things in there.
You know, I was trying to. I was going to do Broga with John.
Yeah.
Dude, my Broga idea, I just found out somebody actually bought the URL. But I don't know what it's for. I'll figure it out. Yeah. You should do that with me.
Yeah. So
that could be their business we grow together.
Yeah, let's do it.
John, how does the obsession, and obviously being the first podcast of what we're going through, just trying to get a little bit of our stories out there about each other. How does that obsession work for you now of this, call it this next phase of where you're trying to grow your company from where you're at right now to bust that 10 million mark?
Yeah, for me, it's knowing my why, and I think you've spoken about this before too.
Dude, that should just be up here on that, the deal right here.
That's what we could put into this microphone. Just why?
Because that's where obsession comes from. I truly believe.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, like when I asked you, like, do you know your goal, right? Like, I don't necessarily, up until a few weeks ago, speaking to you, I didn't necessarily know what my goal was. So, like, I operate out of this chip that's on my shoulder. And it's a big chip, and a lot of it's fabricated, right? Like, because it's been things that people have wronged me, but over the time it's morphed and kind of evolved in my head. And it's kind of like Brady or Jordan, like they'll make things up in their own head to get them fired up, and that's what drives them. And that's what I never knew. Like, about 2 years ago, I went into this like journey into myself and into my mindset, trying to figure out what makes me tick as I was approaching 40. And as my midlife crisis wasn't buying a Corvette. It was like literally trying to figure myself out. Like, why do I do the things I do? And, and how do I get to do, just basically like, I'm just doing me. Like but who am I? Like, what is that? And so I started diving into it. And after I listened to a bunch of TED Talks, I listened to like,
Simon Sinek.
No, Tom Brady's, and I heard about his chip on his shoulder, and then I watched Jordan's documentary. I started doing all of this self-help stuff, but trying to still watch cool things, and that's one of the things I realized, that like my goal is just to prove the voices, whether they're real or fabricated in my head, wrong, and everybody that told me that I would not be what I thought I wanted to be. Again, it kind of goes back to that curve I was talking about earlier, right? Like, this delusional positivity that I'm really good at something. And a lot of people along the way are like, you're never going to do that. Don't do that. That's a stupid idea. You're never going to be that good. And that's all it takes for me. Is like, don't tell me I can't do it, because I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to rub it in your fucking face. And a lot of this is what drives me. It's what I will do. You can almost predict what I'm going to do, and it's based upon who is threatening me in that moment. And sometimes you might not be able to predict, because I don't talk to people about things that bother me. I kind of self-metabolize it and then just go after them. But
do wall balls bother you?
No, the shit talking that you give me about wall balls bothers me. Someday I'm going to go 100 unbroken. I'll be like, fuck you, we're going to the finish line.
When that happens, man, I'm going to buy you a Red Bull, and I'm going to shake your hand. I'm going to be so happy.
I'm going to want more than
So I understand.
But let me finish what I said. 6 weeks ago, you and I were talking, and you had asked me kind of like what the goal was. And now it's the end game for me. It's the exit from what I'm doing, and hopefully someday position my company where it goes for sale for a great multiple. And what that means for me, though, and for everything in my life always, because I a long time ago, I determined that I'm completely unemployable. Like, I don't listen to anybody. I do what I want to do. Yep. And
that's why we work for ourselves.
That's why don't hire me. Unless you want something great to happen for your company. Then hire me at huge multiples and buy my company. But no, it became like, why am I truly doing this, right? And
we were talking about what's your purpose.
My purpose, and my purpose now, as I thought about it, as you and I were talking about on the phone, was becoming the best dad I could ever become. And because I lost my dad when I was 7, he didn't have that opportunity. And it was weird, like, dude, like, I'm not a very like religious person, though I'm very faithful. I used to always believe, and it was right around this time we had this conversation, I used to always believe that like my dad was present when my body would get chill bumps all over it, like for no reason. And I was in my son's room a little while ago, a couple weeks ago, maybe 4 or 5, 6 weeks ago. And I got all these chill bumps. And I'm like, I said out loud, like, Dad, wow, I haven't felt you in a long time. Because even a while ago, Natalie asked me, she's like, have you talked to your dad recently? And I'm like, no, I don't know where he's at. And I was in Jack's room and I get all these chill bumps. I'm like, man, Dad, where have you been? Like, what's up? I haven't talked to you in a minute. You haven't been around. And he said to me, and this is where I'm going to get choked up. He said to me, I've been here the whole time. Like, I am in Jack. And I realized that my dad's blood is running through my son. Mm-hmm. And he didn't get that opportunity to be my dad. And I literally looked at Jack as he was sleeping. I was like, that's my purpose. Like, sell this company, make a bunch of fucking money, and invest and be pragmatic in what I do in order to basically spend as much time as I can with my kid, the time that my dad didn't get. And in turn, I'm getting to spend time with my dad. And that was a huge mindset for me, a mind shift for me. And so that's now my purpose. It's like, build this company, and will I build other companies? Maybe. I don't know. Will I sell this company? Hopefully someday. I don't know. Until right now, I'm enjoying it. It right now is printing enough money to be very successful.
Yeah.
But at some point, the exit and the purpose now is to be the best dad before my kid gets to the age where it doesn't necessarily matter. I need to get him stable enough where I'm able to be like a homeschool teacher and do all these things.
I don't know that you need to be the one doing the teaching.
I was like, hold on, dude.
might think twice, bring somebody in on
we're
that.
going to Twin Peaks.
Remember that curve you were talking about? That might not go in the right direction.
Not those curves, Andy, not those curves. No. But that is like now my new goal. And how much money do I need to get to the point where I could either keep my company and have it and then hire a CEO to run my company or sell my company. But the goal is at some point within the relatively near future, get to a point where I have enough time to allocate to dedicating to raising my child, spending the time with him. And truly, all joking aside, I would love to like become an educator to him, because I went to a school recently and I realized there are a lot of shortcomings in the system that weren't there when I was a kid.
Yeah, we saw your career day pictures.
Great.
Wasn't impressed.
Listen, neither were the teachers, but the kids loved it.
Yeah, I bet the kids thought it was
I don't
great.
know if I'll be invited back.
Yeah.
But that all being said, it's like I want to be able to be like, you know what, Jack, we're learning about the Romans.
We're going to Rome.
We're going to Rome.
Awesome.
Come on,
that's
kid.
awesome.
We're going to go to the Coliseum. We're going to learn about this. We're just not going to read about it on a piece of paper.
Yeah, that's
But
cool.
I need to get to that point.
Well, I mean, knowing your why, obviously, that's the most important, because that's what's going to continue. Every time you stop and think about it, when you go to make that decision, you're going to be like, oh, Jack, my dad, right there. This is what I'm living for. Every time you see him, you're going to think that, and that's always going to be in your mind to push you. Because I know, we had a conversation a couple of weeks before that. I think we were actually sitting in this room before it was ever finished, and we were sitting in here talking about it, and you were just like, oh, I just want to do this, and I want to go away, and I'm like, John, no emotional decisions. Yeah. We don't make these type of decisions when we're either under distress or, elated or anything like that. It's got to be on an even keel when you're making that decision, because I run from that same mindset of I always feel like I have to prove it. Yeah. I'm in an industry where most of my competitors, I would say 95% of my competitors are corporate. Mm-hmm. So I'm dealing against, the corporate world. I've got the Manheims, the Odessas, the CarMaxes, all these big money Wall Street companies that I'm competing against as an independent individual. So I'm constantly have that chip on my shoulder. I have to prove it. And I had a mentor at one time that had gone to and said, man, you've got to get out of this where you just constantly feel like you've got to prove it all the time. So I tried changing my mindset and, going and taking a little step back and maybe being a little more laxed about how I thought about some things. And man, I was going the wrong direction. I wasn't the same person. I wasn't, when I walk into work, I'd let things, some things bothered me that shouldn't bother me, and then things that should be bothering me weren't bothering me because I was just like, oh, I don't have anything to prove to anybody. Yeah. I don't have to. And then I was like,
Yeah,
we're flipping that switch back to the other way.
You picked up Patrick Bet-David's Choose Your Enemies. Like, I'm choosing these guys again.
That book is, I wanted to mention that when you were saying that. Pick up Patrick Bet-David's Choose Your Enemies Wisely, because that book is insane. You need to read that book. It will absolutely bring that Michael Jordan, that Tom Brady out in you, because I do the same thing. I sit there, I had today, before we walked into this, I had a customer that I had a meeting with that decided, they weren't going to use our auction anymore. And it was, is that moment of, are you sure this is the decision you want to make? But I didn't get mad about it. I was kind of relieved by it at the same time. It's a big customer, but it was a customer that we're spending a lot of time on, and it's taken away from other customers. So I was like, man, before I would have been like, ready to, just be mad. Man, I'm not. Now I'm thinking, okay, how are we changing the world now? I'm going at it and going to prove why you should have stayed.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
And I love that part, though. I am a true believer in that prove it mindset. It definitely keeps you obsessed. So.
Well, the other side of that, see, you were just saying that, and my blood was already boiling. Like, I'm not going to get mad, but like in back of my head, I'm like, that's fine. In the subconscious, like, how am I going to put you the fuck out of business one way or another? I know I'm not even in your industry, but I will find a way, whether it be 10, 20, 30 years, that when you're underneath the bridge, I will drive by and throw my fucking McDonald's trash on you. Like, that's I don't eat McDonald's, I don't litter, but you know what I'm thinking? That's where my mindset's all the time. Even this business, like, in my business, and maybe this is the difference between a 100 million guy and a 10 million guy. Like, I am so hungry that I will eat the competition if I could. Like, I'm always like sizing people up. I'm like, what did you say? Like, how am I going to put you out of business? And literally, when people, like, I love to watch people win, but those that put that chip on my shoulder, there's nothing more I love than watching them suffer.
See, and I
like,
and I
it
think
sounds terrible, but it is.
I know for sure. When we get further through these podcasts and we get into talking about the story between, my last adventure and going into this, when all that comes out, that was me.
Yeah.
And now it's changed though. So where I'm at, my mindset now is I'm completely different. Now I'm going to show why you made the mistake. Mm-hmm. I'm going to show you that this is where you should have been. And then when you do come back, you're on my terms.
Yeah.
You're in my world.
That's awesome.
You're coming to me, asking for me to take care of you.
So what you're saying is I'm on the right path to 100 million. I just have to.
I'm not at 100 million. My goal though is to be, is to get to where I'm worth $100 million. Because before my dream wasn't big enough. That's what I was talking about. My dream was, when we sold the company for 8 figures, that was my dream. Well, that was small. Mm-hmm. Yep. That was too small. Because guess what? I was done with it. Mm-hmm. I had nothing left to achieve. I heard this deal the other day. I went to a deal with David Goggins that he was speaking at the other day, and he was talking about climbing that mountain. And, and they talk about putting that flag at the top of the mountain. Fuck getting to the top of the mountain. Why you're done. I'm never going to be done. That mountain has to keep going.
Well, here's the thing. It's like my industry. My goal was to get to the top of the publishing industry within the outdoor space. Well, I realized that when I finally slammed my flag into that, which I did probably a year and a half ago, that was just a false summit. Yeah. And I realized how small my industry really is. And I looked at the top of Everest. I'm like, there's where like Meredith is. That's where Condé Nast is. That's where these big publishers are.
Yeah.
Like, how do I get up there? Like, I'm done screwing around with these like industry people. Like, yeah, I love my industry and I'm always going to be in this industry. But how do I grow my company to a profitable place up there? Or if I can't get to that profit level, how do I at least develop a company that is in the same, stature as one of those companies? I may never get the revenue that a Sports Illustrated gets. I don't know. Maybe I will. I don't know. But can I build a company that at least is on par technologically, that's on par editorially, that's on par with those people? Sometimes it's not about the bank account for me. Sometimes it's about just being able to run with those people. It's like when for my birthday, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to run 40 miles. And who did I call? You, and I called George.
You sure as hell weren't calling me.
We just called you to the party, okay?
Yeah.
I'm just lucky you didn't throw your Breitling at me.
Yeah.
I'm glad you stopped
I
drinking.
still have this, by the way.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I know.
I had to hold on to that for a while.
Yeah.
So I think something too to bring in to just kind of wrap the differences, right? Like, so you guys have kind of heard about how they kind of like operate from a chip on the shoulder mindset. And I think that's great. That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
So my way and my mindset with that, like with competitors is different. I don't focus on anybody around me. And this is going to sound weird. Like I don't put myself in competition to anybody because like, in my mind, like they're not competing against me. I'm trying to find out where I can go, and that's it. Because if you
I will defer to the race where you said there's no way they are beating us.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. We'll go back to wall balls. But no, but no, really. Like, so when you're looking at like this business perspective in life in general, like I want to see how far I can go, and I feel like sometimes like I love setting goals and they're benchmarks, but like the real goal is to see how far you can take it. So I don't operate from a position of like, hey, like I'm worried about my competitors doing. Obviously, I'm going to study certain business strategies, everything like that. What's best practices? How do I refine that? How do I become? How do I make myself niche in something that's obviously widespread availability, right? So I operate from a point of that, of like how far can I take this? How many people can I impact, and what that's going to look like? I don't have a chip on my shoulder towards anybody. I think I used to, but I got to the place where I started having these chips and wanting to prove that I was better than this gym and this person. That for me personally, I was just like, this isn't where I want to be. I want to be like, what does it look like for me? How far can I go, and how far can I take that? And what keeps me going, and I don't want to just bring this about me, but like one thing that I always remember, and it keeps me grounded day in and day out, the thing that keeps on pushing me completely is because if I had friends who are alive right now, they'd be doing what I was doing and more. And I keep that in the back of my head that every day I have to earn it because of them. And they would be doing it differently. And that's what I remind myself. Like if they were here, like there were some absolute CrossFit fitness studs, coaches, and they lost their life in combat. If they were here, they'd be doing it better. There's some guys that I guarantee you would have been doctors. They'd be doing it better. So every day I keep myself in check to be like, hey, this is where you're going to keep on going. You're not going to stop. There's not going to be a number that I reach that I'm okay with. Like you said, I'm going to keep on going and see how far I can go. And if my competitors are around me, guess what? I'm absolutely happy to take their business, but they're just my blinders. Because sometimes what I found out is when you focus on trying to prove something to some people, this is my experience, that you forget, like you need to prove it to yourself. You're completely capable and going to far exceed whatever you do. And that's just, I think the beauty of having us three in is we all have similar but different mindsets, but they're all directing you towards that same place of being obsessed, how you approach it in your mindset. And obviously all three in our own perspectives have been successful. While I'm still working on my business, I've been wildly successful in other areas of my life, physically, as well as, obviously educationally and all of that. But yeah, I just wanted to share that different mindset for somebody who's listening. Like, well, I don't have a chip on my shoulder. You don't always have to have a chip on your shoulder, but you need to know why you're doing it. Like you said, know your why.
Know your why.
And you need to be completely obsessed with that and every day, and don't ever just stop growing. You have to continually be a student of what you do. And you need to, like you said, John, you found that niche. You have to create a niche within your industry or your business that sets you apart from everybody else, and you need to own it, you need to run with it, and you need to be obsessed and just grind until you get there.
Well, and everybody's why is going to be completely different.
100%.
I don't have kids, so I'm not going to be sitting here going, oh, well, I've kind of got that same why. I don't. My why is completely different.
Yeah.
And my why changes regularly, to be honest with you, because sometimes my why is things I want to achieve within my company. I think that core why always is there. But when I'm around my employees, my why is completely different,
100%.
Versus what my why is when I'm at home. And so, there's two different. But, the why at home probably gets sacrificed more because I chase so much of what I want to do within my business.
Can I hit on something like that real quick though?
Yeah. So
I think this is part of being obsession required. Like when you guys are looking at like, hey, how do we really navigate this? Like number one, like I think we do. You have to define your why, right? And two, you just hit on that at home is sacrifice. You need to take care of yourself mentally and physically, and we'll hit more on that later. But you need to also have relationships, not just friends, but make sure things are okay in your personal life at home. Trying to navigate the challenges that we're going to be discussing later. If I didn't have my wife behind me and literally me at my low when I have nothing behind me saying like, hey, you can do this, and being willing to stand behind you, just like you have Jamie, just like you have Natalie. If we didn't have that stability and people behind us that we have sacrificed time and time again, doing something with them to work on what we're working on, we'd be in complete shambles. So when you guys are listening to this, you guys need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself physically first. But if you have any instability in your relationship, you need to figure that out and get that whole, or else it's going to be something that's going to drag you down and you're never going to be able to fully have an obsession with what you want because there's so much dysfunction behind you. And I think we've all been fortunate with the women that sacrifice their standards for us.
Well, and I think the three of us each have strong women behind
100%.
us. You know,
it's so important.
And
100%.
And you know, and that is the truth. I had to have a conversation, and this was during this past year of where you were talking about that change in me, where I would never have that conversation before of, hey, you know, I did everything. I made those decisions. I didn't include Jamie in on them. Now it's like, hey, babe, I need you to understand where I'm going, what my mindset is, and how we're going. So, you know, and she's behind me for that. So in reality, guys, I think this is a good place kind of to wrap up. It gets in, you know, we kind of look at it this way. We're like an iceberg. We're just the tip is out of the water. All that deep shit's under the water. So we're just getting started at this.
Just
and,
the tip. Just see how it feels.
Do what?
Just the tip.
Just for a second.
Just the tip.
Just for a second.
Just for a second. I swear.
So I think it's a good place to wrap up our first podcast together. And you know, I hope everybody that watches this gets something out of it and finds some value in it. I mean, I truly, for me, like I said, I've had something on my heart. I've wanted to get off of it. And I think this is a way of doing it and also bringing value to other people, because what I think you're going to see through this while we're doing this is three guys that are engaged in a business. I'm not trying to teach anybody anything. I'm not trying to say, hey, this is how you need to do it, or this is how you need to do it. Exactly. I'm far from an expert, but I want to show people what it is I'm going through to do what I'm doing, because I do believe that it may be a shortcut for them to get some value out of it, to where if they're wanting to make these steps, they can say, oh, well, I know that I'm going to run into this barrier. Yep. And, you know, if we can help anybody, I think that's great. So,
I think just to tap onto that right before we go, I think the one thing you're going to see as well is that all three of us have different valuations in our business. The problems that we're facing are very similar, and you're going to be able to connect with that.
Yep.
And you're going to see that. And it was weird because before we had this conversation, and we'll wrap up, we almost didn't realize it. I didn't realize that at his level, he's having the same problems I am at my level. So you want me to take you away from this, that if you're going through something right now, you're not alone. So don't sit there and be like, it's just me. It's everybody. And it doesn't matter how much money you're making or how much money you're not making. Like, we all have this, and we want you to take that away from it. We are on this journey with you. We're hoping to give our experiences, but we're in this journey together. This is a very community-centric sort of conversation that's going on.
And I think that's a great wrap.
Yeah.
That's the pod.
That's the pod.
That's pod, baby.
Good one, guys. Obsession required, guys.
Obsession required.